Hey guys, it's Steven here. Today we're going to do a video that's a little bit different than what we usually do. Today we'll be talking about NIO, really examining them as a business and then looking at the financials for them. So traditionally I'm more of a fundamental investor, so I look for companies that are generating profits a day with nice financials and have a good bright future as well. So there is going to be a big of a change today. When we're looking at NIO, it's more looking at a more speculative type of investment. But with all the EV hype and news around, we just keep seeing these different EV stocks that keep climbing up and up and up. So let's go ahead and dive in together and see what NIO is all about. Let's see if we can get an honest assessment of all the hype that's surrounding NIO and whether it's legit or not, and let us decide if we want to look more into it and see what the future is with this company. So let's go ahead and get started. So when we're looking at any type of company, a good place to start is the website, right? So here we'll go ahead and pull up the website and we'll go through and see what they have to offer, to us, especially with all this news and all this hype around it at this time. So let's go ahead. This is the NIO website I've pulled up right here. And one of the things that jumps out right away is that they recently had this NIO 100 kilowatt per hour battery launch. So what does that tell us? Is that a big deal? So when we're looking at this battery, it's actually pretty comparable to what Tesla has recently revealed on their battery day. So this is actually a pretty big deal that would give their vehicles a longer range, for a lot of their vehicles. And so it is a big deal and shows that their technology is pretty advanced as well when it comes to batteries, maybe even on par with Tesla's. But before we jump back on to see what else is on the first page, one thing you do want to look out about is just what the company is all about. So we'll go ahead and hit About NIO. And we already know, of course, it is an EV company, but let's see what else they say about themselves, right? So here we're going to look at the website. The interface seems very nice. I mean, honestly, it looks fantastic. And their goal is to really look into all those smart electric autonomous vehicles, right? They aim to lead the way. And one of the things that kind of stands out when scrolling through this page is that really their dedication to their name, when they're looking at their Chinese name, is they infer that the blue sky is coming. So what does that mean? They're looking to see and really push forward to a more green type of world. So they're looking to push towards a more green type of environment, hopefully things that are more environmental friendly and make the world a better place that our kids or grandchildren can live in as well, and we'll be proud to pass that along to them, right? A lot of these current companies are producing so much exhaust and things that they have a good vision for the future to save the environment, so which is great. Now, one of the big things that stands out for this is actually its connection to the Chinese government and what the Chinese government wants to do with electric vehicles, or what they want to do in regards to the old ICE vehicles. Okay, so the Chinese government is looking to reduce significantly the amount of vehicles they have that use the internal combustion engine, or the ICE vehicles that are currently on the roads today. The Chinese government wants at least 25% of vehicles to be electric or hybrid vehicles by 2025. And their goal is to, by 2035, have 100% of the vehicles on the road being sold to be electric or hybrid vehicles. So there is a lot of room, a lot of place to grow for these EV companies in China. So NIO is a Chinese-based company, and even if they don't somehow broaden and expand into the national market, they still have the largest consumer base in the world with the population of China, right? They buy a lot of stuff and they'll be using a lot of cars. So let's continue scrolling down on this page and see what we see. So the next generation of car company, all the EV companies are going to say that, so there's nothing too extraordinary about that. Feeling positive about owning a car again, and I think this is a big thing. We've come to see that really what is happening in the world right now with the weather change and climate change, it's unsustainable, the amount of energy or the way we're releasing energy into the world. So having these electric vehicles is going to be a clean way to produce energy for the future, and will save our environment. So it is definitely a thing that we can look to about feeling good about owning a car. And it's a sentiment a lot of people have. As we continue to scroll down, we see they want to redefine what premium service means for a car company. I have looked a little bit into some of the customer experiences and what customers that own NIO vehicles have to say about it. And that's actually one of the big selling points NIO has been trying to do for their company is great customer service for their company. So what they do is that I've heard a story where they had a customer go into their store and essentially ask to test drive a specific NIO vehicle. And they actually wanted a specific color to test drive. Usually for a test drive, a lot of companies are not that accommodating for the color because it really shouldn't make that big of a difference. But the store was able to accommodate them and get them the specific color they wanted to test drive as well. And then they also go above and beyond with their service. When we'll kind of see that when we look into how they do their battery service and really services related to any vehicle maintenance and things like that as well. So we'll see that a little bit later too. So just keep that in mind. And here's a couple more things about the vision of blue sky coming true. A future we're excited to shape. Yes, and that is great. And now we get to what they call their global footprint. So not only is it a company for China, it is an international company. They have different divisions and different offices all around the world that focus on different parts. So we scroll down here, we'll see that they have their main headquarters, global headquarters, and where most of the R&D is done in Shanghai. And then they have another part of China in Hefei, where they have another headquarters there for more business development and things there, where they're looking for Hefei as NIO China's headquarters for advanced manufacturing center. And then they have Beijing, which is going to be looking in where they're doing their R&D center for software. And so we scroll down here, we see they also have an office in North America in San Jose, where they're doing more research and development in that area because that's where a lot of the new tech and things are coming out, right? And then they have a office in Munich where they have their global design center. In Germany is known to have a lot of, it'd be really the premier company when it comes to design and really customization, where you're looking at, in particular, some of the other brands like BMW, where customization, or Mercedes, where customization is really the big selling point of those companies. So they're trying to draw a little bit of those positives from those companies with them as well. And finally, also another R&D center in Oxford. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive back into the main website. And we've already talked about the battery, which is pretty extraordinary. So let's go ahead and move on to the next thing they're looking at. So a big selling point for NIO, which is a lot different than, this is, I would say, something that really is a distinguishing factor for NIO versus the other EV companies and even Tesla, is that they have battery as a service. So what is battery as a service? So what they're looking at here is that they're essentially making it where you don't really directly own the battery that you have, but you can easily switch out the battery when you need it. So they actually have these little, essentially, compartments or little buildings where you can just drive your car into. It's almost, the best way to think about it is almost like a car wash. When you think about those car washes you see around the US, where you drive in there and there's a little area that you can get the water hose and spray down your car. Instead of there being a water hose to spray down your car, you drive your car in there, and what it does is that it actually replaces your battery when your battery's running low or you need it changed. So you go ahead and drive your new NIO car into there, and then it takes about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. It goes through, it switches out the battery of the NIO car and changes out for a brand new battery, and then you're good to go. So it is a lot different than having the direct charging most other vehicles do, but they have this battery changing service that's supposed to be a little bit faster, maybe more convenient for the driver. So that is a big selling point. And economically, for NIO, it's something they can really use that to gain a lot of profits. It's something you can see as a subscription service if you're paying a monthly feed to them where they allow you to use this battery exchange service if they have this access available for everyone all over China, that service is something they can charge a pretty high premium for the convenience for this. So this is definitely something unique to NIO. Now, talking about NIO here, also about this battery, also brings up a point that kind of reminds me when I looked into NIO as well, is that NIO, one thing that NIO doesn't have though, because so they have this distinction factor, one thing NIO does not have compared to Tesla and Xpeng is Tesla actually is making several facilities that's going to be directly manufacturing their vehicles. So when Tesla has those new facilities in Germany and Texas and Shanghai ready to go, any improvements they make in the manufacturing process, they're going to be able to get all those profits from that if they're able to have those improvements, and that'll directly affect their bottom line. Now, NIO, they actually don't have a direct manufacturing plant that they own directly. They're actually using a Chinese governmental facility that produces their automobile vehicles for them. So that's something to keep in mind. Xpeng, one of the other competitors also based in China, also has their own manufacturing facility in China as well that produces their cars directly themselves. So that's something to keep in mind. There's always pros and cons when you're looking at any of these EV companies. So it's important to know those and just keep those in mind when you're analyzing them. The next thing we see here on the website, it says power innovation. It's just talking about the power exchange. Well, I talked about already a little earlier, but here you kind of see what it looks like there as well, and what that building looks like where you drive in has the things changed, the battery changed out for you. So we'll go ahead and move on from there. They do have several styles of electric vehicles to choose from. They're generally considered to be more of a luxurious brand when it comes to EV vehicles, so the quality is supposed to be very good. We're looking at the style here. On the outside, it looks pretty good. I mean, honestly, when you're looking at it, it looks typically like what you would see on the road nowadays from a regular ICE vehicle. So that honestly looks like it could be a Ford Escape if you didn't see the labeling or brand on it. So there's nothing too extraordinary about what the exterior design looks like. So that's not too bad though. It still looks fantastic. Now there's also an ES8, so another style they have, and of course there's different price points for different styles. Just like with the Tesla with their different models, different price points and what you expect. Same thing for NIO. Not much difference there. So we'll go on, scroll on down. Now we'll get to the bottom of the page. And we've already talked about NIO Power, but we haven't talked about NIO House. So when you look at NIO House, originally when I was looking into them, I thought it would be something similar to what Tesla offers with their solar panel service for your house, where you can have those solar panels generate energy for your home. But actually for NIO House, it's a lot different. A NIO House, what it really is referring to is that they actually have different buildings or office spaces all around China, and especially in the big metro areas, where it's a place for NIO owners where they can kind of congregate together. And think of it like a Starbucks where you just go and congregate, you get some tea, get some food. It's almost trying to build a lifestyle for NIO owners. So one of the things for NIO is that they are very, very ambitious when they're trying to get everything put together. So they have this NIO House with really talking about the lifestyle related to NIO. So we actually click learn more. We'll kind of see hopefully what they kind of want to say here. So here to see NIO House. There's a little couch area for you to relax in, maybe during a busy office day. You can go in there during lunch to relax. And then they have all these other types of office buildings and things that you can go. Maybe it looks like a little bit of library there. You can go and just chill and hang out, talk to other NIO owners. And then there's other books there as well. You can bring your kids. They can hang out there as well. So it's not exactly what you might initially thought, but it's essentially what it says here. It's like a club for people. So you have the living room, forums, lab, library, NIO cafes, building that lifestyle. So they do have a big plan to develop a whole lifestyle around NIO. And you can even see that when you look at their battery as a service. Because what battery as a service does is that it essentially creates a loyal customer, because that's only a thing that's completely unique to NIO, that it's not something that you can do with another EV company. So if you're used to that type of experience and you expect that type of service, it's something that you're not going to be switching to another company for. Think of it as if you really enjoy using the Apple Store and you have a lot of apps that you enjoy, what Apple gives you advantages using an Apple device versus an Android device. You're going to have a lot of that brand loyalty to NIO in this case as well. So now that we've gone over kind of what NIO is all about, let's dig into the financials now. And of course, NIO's financials are not going to be terrific, right? When you're looking at it from a fundamental investor perspective, it's not going to meet the requirements. Let's be honest here. It's not going to have the right ratios. It's not going to be a money generating machine at this moment. It's not a cash cow, but it's very speculative. But let's go ahead. We can still dig and see what's going on with that. Just getting a little bit of water there. But yeah, talking about this stuff gets me excited. It's just a lot of potential, okay, on here when we're looking at this. Alright, so looking at NIO, it is on the New York Stock Exchange as NIO. And when we're looking at the price chart initially on here, you can see it was basically stagnant for years, right, at really low price. And then basically this year, it just shot up. So today, the price traded today at the end of the day was $53.69. But we don't have to go back that far to see that the price in the low in January of 2019, in around October of 2019 was just a little bit over $1. So what happened between then and now, and what caused that huge price change? Because something must have fundamentally changed in the company to cause that type of evaluation for today. So what happened essentially, what we learned is that around the end of April, early May, NIO was actually doing pretty poorly when it came to their financials. They were burning through hundreds of millions per quarter. And they actually at that time were possibly going to go bankrupt. But at that point, they got a big relief from the Chinese government and Chinese investors. They got a $1 billion essentially handout for them, or investment from them, from the Chinese government to help keep them on their feet. And when that happened at around the end of April, it's when a lot of people said and started thinking, oh, they have the backing of the Chinese government. Maybe they're just not going to be allowed to fail. So that's something to consider as well on that. But here we see most of the gains actually from the past year. So we're switching from the 5-year view, which is, it grew about 442%, which is fantastic, 4 times within 5-year span. But if you look at 1 year, it has grown 2,519%, 25 times. 25 times what they started out at the beginning of the year. That is unbelievable. So currently, the earnings per share is a negative $1. Obviously, that's not very good, but they are a growth stock. And again, fundamental analysis on this company is more of a speculative investment. Our fundamentals is not going to directly apply, but I will point out some things to look for on here when we're looking at NIO, however. There is a market capitalization priced in at the current share price to be at $73.1 billion. Now, that is a pretty hefty market capitalization. Some of the really large current ICE vehicle companies have a market cap around that, at this time, and they might already produce 1 to 5 million vehicles or up to 10 million vehicles per year. So that's something to keep in mind. Although NIO is more possibly of a technological company and not necessarily only an automobile company. So the valuation for NIO is not going to fall on the traditional valuations for other automobile or legacy automobile makers. It's going to be a little bit different when we're looking at NIO. We see that about 40% now of the shares are held by institutions, and the short interest about 4.4%. Recent news we see is that there has been a little bit of drawback today on the stock. China did release some statement where they said they are investigating and looking into their EV companies within their country to make sure there's no type of shady type of projects or business going on. So that is good that there's a little bit of drawback on there. With the price spiking up so high recently, a drawback is completely natural, and you do want that growth to be organic and not fueled by something that could be behind the scenes, okay? So that is very good. So when we're looking at different companies, we always want to look at ratios for fundamental companies. So while it doesn't apply directly here, let's just take a look at them and see what information we can draw from them, okay? So while the screen is loading here, we see here there's no price to earnings ratio. Why? Because there's negative earnings at this time, right? The price to sales is about 35.4. That is extremely high actually compared to S&P 500. And then the price to tangible book, of course, very high as well. And then negative return on equity. Now we're going to go scroll on down. Now I'll show you something that is very interesting. It is important because the other basic fundamentals don't really apply so far. It's really that sales growth within 1 year at 48%. That is a big amount of sales growth. Now with that sales growth, something to consider is that they are actually still not making any money. But next year, NIO is expecting a sales growth of almost 100% more of the following year. So when that does kick in, it's going to be possibly 1, 2, 3 years that NIO may be profitable at that time. At this time, they're still not that profitable. If you look at the gross profit margin here, it's only at 3.83%. And their net profit right now is negative 54.39%. So that's not very good. If you're fundamentally analyzing a company and you're doing fundamental investing, these things are huge red marks. But of course, we're looking at this company today through a little bit of a different lens. And the long-term debt, about $1 billion. They have a lot of debt. They're not making any money. So it'll be very hard for them to pay off the debt. They're not going to be paying that off in quite some time until they start making some money. So those are the financial ratios associated to it. But let's go ahead and look at their financial statements as well. So when looking at their financial statements, we're looking at them annually. For now, we see that their revenue initially when it first started obviously was nothing, and they just started generating some revenue in the past 2 years. Now, when we scroll on down, look at their net income after taxes, they're still significantly in the red. So for the past 2 years in 2018, they had a negative $1.4 billion. And then for net income in 2019, they have a negative $1.6 billion. And it's about the same right now as well. We go to quarterly to see what they've been doing recently. Is that their net income after taxes of the past 2 quarters around negative 160 million, negative 150 million. That is to be expected. Now, one thing to consider is the fact that if you're looking at financial, it looks pretty ugly. So that investment from the Chinese government, Chinese investors that infused around $1 billion into the company was really a lifesaver that allowed him to stay afloat. So we'll see if they're able to turn that around in the future. If you think they are able to turn it around in the future, it's something to consider before investing in this company. All right, let's go ahead and look at the balance sheet as well. So we're obviously going to see a lot of negative things we're looking at it because it is a very speculative growth investment. But one thing I do like to look at for all companies before I invest in it is their long-term debt. So we're looking at the long-term debt. This one, let me go ahead and do it for the annual view real quick so you can guys see what the big number is like for it. So here we go. Long-term debt currently is at $1.2 billion for total debt for 2019. And then the retained earnings, the accumulated deficit is about $6.6 billion right there. So those are things to keep in consideration. when looking at the company right now. And with the valuation that NIO has at this time, that is extremely high, you can consider that they may potentially seek out an additional round of funding, whether it's through shares or issuing more debt, because with this type of valuation, they'll be able to get a lot of money. Let's look at their last financial statement, their cash flow statement. So when we're looking at the annual on here, we see that obviously they're in a lot of red. There's really not too much to draw from here. We see capital expenditures, how much they're spending on equipment and things to bring their product to market. It's around $245 million in 2019. Now, the thing to consider is that they actually don't directly manufacture their own vehicles. So that might be lower in expense than some of the other EV vehicle companies you're considering investing in as well. So but there we have it on there. For most of the financial statements, they don't work well when you're trying to use fundamental analysis when looking at these type of new EV companies, but it's still good to look through them. So now when you know all that, what other information would you need to know? Looking at the management team. So when we look at the management team, when you think of Tesla, you think of Elon Musk, and he's really the driving force behind Tesla, all their innovation, their mission, and their vision, right? So is there an equivalent person at NIO that's doing the same thing? So NIO has their own version of Elon Musk in William Li. I'll give you a little bit of background on him. He grew up in China, born and raised there. He got his first initial business experience when he was relatively young. He actually worked at a local convenience store for his grandfather and helped run that business a bit as a younger child in his teenage years. So that's his first experience. He also, when he graduated from high school, they have to take a college entrance exam, very similar to what we kind of do in the United States, but in China, it's supposed to be very, very difficult, and he had one of the top scores in his own province, which allowed him admission into one of the most famous universities in China, Beijing University. At Beijing University, William Li actually studied 3 different things. He studied computer science, sociology, and a little bit of law. And one of the things that interests him the most is computer science. But I was just drawing from that little bit of background information. You can already tell that this guy he's a pretty smart guy. Just like you would place your bets on Elon Musk for Tesla to grow, you might consider placing your bets on William Li to help continue to grow NIO. Before getting into NIO, William Li was already a successful entrepreneur and a businessman. He had originally had another company that deals with marketing and car sales, which he had already sold and exited out of that company in the past. And now his total focus is on NIO. So do you think NIO is led by a company with a man with a vision? It's definitely something that is possible, that William Li could be leading the Chinese Tesla into the next era when it comes to electric vehicles in China. Hopefully this video gave you a little bit of overview of what NIO is trying to do, and also look into their financials. Now the decision whether you want to invest in this company, it's not going to be based on fundamentals. It's going to be a speculative investment, and that's something you have to know. If you put money in this company, be full aware that while it is climbing, there is inherent risk with this type of investment. There is no free money when it comes to investing. So as long as you trust and you have strong conviction, it's something to consider putting a portion of your portfolio into some of these EV stocks. So depending on how aggressive investor you are, you put anywhere between 1%, you're extremely conservative, it's putting a little bit of money on there, or up to possibly 25-50% of your portfolio in these EV vehicles. Now, as a fundamental investor myself, it's about diversification. That's how you mitigate your risk. By putting a small percentage of your portfolio and considering putting a percentage of your portfolio into NIO may not be that bad of a speculative investment. And of course, this is not investment advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, and you can also do your own due diligence. But this is some information that I found about NIO. Hopefully, it made it helpful for you. If you found this video helpful and you like this type of content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'm excited to bring you this video today, and with all that EV news, it's something that we definitely needed to talk about and I thought you would find useful. So hopefully you guys have a good one. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.